Welcome to Losing Faith, Finding Spirit podcast. This little podcast is dedicated to personal growth, leaving toxic systems and people and relationships behind, and finding your inner knowing and growing within yourself. The losing faith part of this podcast all stems from my personal experience of walking away from the evangelical Christian church, Southern United States of America. And I say that because I know that there are many sects of Christianity, and that's sects as in SECT. That's like different denominations and groups and churches and so forth. And there are lots of different belief systems within Christianity as a whole around the world. And I know that this little pocket that I grew up in and came from, of the evangelical Christian church, is kind of its own little brand of Christianity. And not all are the same. So I just wanted to point that out. So when I talk about losing faith, that's what I'm talking about, is walking away from those systems. It's also walking away from toxic people who are not good for you, people who are, maybe they have personality disorders, maybe they have addiction issues, maybe they just are not good people for no other reason than the fact that they're not, maybe they just don't blend with you, or in my case, me. So the losing faith is losing faith in those toxic systems, those toxic relationships, those things that hold you back and hold you from finding yourself. The finding spirit aspect of this podcast is all about finding your inner knowing, finding that source of life and purpose in your life, finding that thing that brings you joy, finding your path to a better, healthier you, a better, healthier me, and my mental health journey, and learning how to reframe false beliefs, reframe negative thought patterns. Been in a lot of different kind of therapies to kind of help me grow away from all of that toxic cesspool that I grew up in to become a more fulfilled, independent person, confident person. This is all a part of growth. It's all a part of my own journey. I do have a background in psychology and sociology. I have a bachelor's degree. I accidentally double majored in both of those, psychology and sociology, because I just happened to take enough classes. And I'm probably just 1 or 2 classes away from getting 2 separate degrees if I were to ever go back to college and do that. But honestly, that's not my path in life right now. But I bring that knowledge and that understanding here to this podcast for other people who are maybe stuck. Maybe you've been in a questioning of beliefs. Maybe you've been questioning the hypocrisy of the church or of the people in your life. Those all stem from the same thing. I lost faith in the people who I believed were supposed to treat me to what true love is and to lead me into a path that was good for me. I put too much faith in others, an outside faith in other people, other systems, instead of looking into my inner knowing and finding myself. And now I am flipping that, and that is my finding spirit. I am finding my inner knowing and what that means to me. As far as my personal beliefs, I don't think that they're relevant to the podcast. I'm going to be talking mostly about just things that either I've found in therapy or things that I found that work. I'll be pointing things out from a psychologist's perspective. I am not a psychologist, but I have that psychology background. I'll be pointing those kinds of things out and the hypocrisy that I have seen, and just to give people who maybe are victims of this sort of emotional abusive systems and relationships some validation. You need that. Validation is so vital to growing and unlearning these negative belief patterns and these systems and becoming stronger and a more independent, confident person and the best, higher version of yourself. But if you want to know a little bit about my personal beliefs, because maybe that's going to help you or not, I lean more into the pagan realm. I am not quite self-identified as a witch, but that's probably the closest I would say. I don't believe in like magic and gods and all of that. However, I do use them in my practice as a sort of metaphorical visual of elements of life. Just kind of, I would say, if I had to say what I think, it's close to manifestation, but more in a, like, you're not just going to believe and think and say this thing and it's going to happen. It's going to put you on the path to finding the right steps and the next step to make that happen in your life. I'm a total believer in doing things. I always want to know the how of things, and manifestation and law of attraction kind of says ignore the how. I can't. That's not who I am. That doesn't vibe with me, if you will. So my personal beliefs are a little scattered all over the place, but really what it comes down to is, if I celebrate a tradition, I want to know the root of that tradition. So Christmas, when it comes to Christmas time, I'm more interested in Yule and solstice, which is the root of where Christmas comes from. Christmas in and of itself is not Jesus's birthday. The church even will say this. I remember the pastor's wife of the evangelical church I grew up in being like, Jesus was born in April. He was a spring baby. We all know this, but we celebrate it in Christmas. Why do we celebrate it in December if he's April, like Easter? Why are we not doing Easter for his birthday? Why is Christmas supposed to be all about Jesus? It's because of the winter solstice and the winter celebrations, Saturnus, all of the pagan traditions that were in winter, and celebrations of the light returning, because the long nights at solstice, it's no longer darker, the sun is coming back, and those long nights are starting to become brighter again. So when I celebrate those kinds of traditions, I try to look at the root, and that's where I personally like to do and honor those sort of more nature-based, sort of more in tuned to the environment and being part of what I can do to make the world a better place. I'm all about love and light and bringing more peace to the world. And that's what I hope to represent in this podcast and bring to others who are listening in. So thank you for tuning in. This is just my about little intro podcast. So thank you for finding me, and welcome to Losing Faith, Finding Spirit. I look forward to more content in the future.